Joining me now, the wonderful Congresswoman from the state of Wyoming, Harriet Hageman. She is one of the good ones out there. Okay, Harriet, you voted for this. Guys like Thomas Massie, who I also love, voted against it. I understand both sides of it. I hear it all, but it's your vote. You're the one in power. I'm the idiot on TV. Tell me about it.
Well, we need to be moving forward with this part of the process so that we can get to reconciliation. And reconciliation is going to give us the opportunity to right a lot of the wrongs from the Biden administration and do it quite quickly. Under reconciliation, we only need 50 votes in the Senate rather than 60 that would be typical under these circumstances. And that's huge. What that means is that we don't have to be negotiating with the Democrats about funding the government and the cuts that we are looking at doing. I think it's very clear with the current administration and the support that he has that the president has from people around the country that we need to right-size government. And we need to do that both through the legislative action as well as some of the work that the president is doing. So I have supported this particular step in this process because I think that we truly need to get to some of the fundamentals and reverse some of the things that Biden did, such as attempting to hardwire the endangerment finding into the so-called Inflation Reduction Act, or IRA. So there are a lot of priorities that I have with reconciliation. This is one step so that we can get there so we can start carrying those out.
Does this eliminate the entire Inflation Reduction Act? Because we were told, at least the little birdies were chirping before this thing, that there were a lot of even GOP members of the House that didn't really want to get rid of that nice little congressional gravy train because of all the checks that came back to their districts. Does it dump the whole thing?
I don't believe that it does, no, but there are important things for my district that we are getting rid of. I would like to see the entire IRA repealed. One of the challenges that we have with reconciliation is there are very strict and complicated rules of what we can and cannot do. And what they refer to, the primary one, is being the Byrd Rule. And the Byrd Rule limits what you can do in a reconciliation package that you cannot be addressing policy. Everything has to be budget oriented. The other challenge that we have is that all of the work that we do has to be scored by CBO. Now, I've got some concerns about the way that CBO scores our bills as compared to how they score the Democrat bills. But what we do have to do is we have to make sure that we're staying on the budgeting side of the ledger, not the policy side. And that's why it becomes difficult in some ways to do all of the things that we would like to do. But what I'm focusing on, as I indicated with the endangerment finding, is I'm looking at those provisions of the IRA that funded the Green New Deal endangerment finding agenda and policies. And so we are taking portions of it out. The other thing that we're trying to do that I think is absolutely huge is include portions of the Reins Act within reconciliation. Now, what Reins Act would do is limit the power of administrative agencies. One example, one primary provision of that being an administrative agency could not adopt a regulation that has an economic impact of over $100 million unless it is approved by Congress. So again, trying to reclaim the Article 1 authority is what we're trying to do, and the Reins Act would help us to do that. It would substantially undermine the authority of these administrative agencies and of the executive branch and their ability to legislate. I'd like to see the number be lower. I think 100 million is too high. But again, we have to work with other members of Congress, and even getting this through, I think, could have some challenges, but I think it's very important to the American people.
Do you get frustrated working with some of these dirtballs?
Well, Jesse, you know, you have been one who's been willing to talk about this for a long, long time. And you've talked about it in terms of your own state and the challenges that you have with people who run as conservatives. And then when they come here to govern, they do not govern as conservatives. And you said at the top of this interview that I was one of the good ones. But the only reason you think I'm one of the good ones is I'm doing exactly what I said I would do. When I ran for this office, I told you what I was going to do. And every single day that I get up, I try to do exactly what I told the people of Wyoming. And so it is important for me as a conservative to make sure that I'm taking conservative votes and trying to right this ship, trying to reorganize and trying to resize, downsize government. I think it's important to do that. There are some people that we work with that tend to be more liberal, even if they do run as conservatives. And that is a frustration.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You're also the chair of the anti-woke caucus. Please tell me about this. How'd this come to be?
So it came to be because at the time, Representative Jim Banks started this, and the idea was to expose all of this woke ideology that has been embedded in our schools and our government and society as a whole. So it was started about 2 years ago, kind of at the peak wokeness, if you will, with all of the social justice nonsense and the intersectionality that we were hearing about and things. And so what Jim Banks did is he was bringing in speakers to talk about how this was affecting all of our various institutions, again, our universities, even going down to grade school and junior high, middle school, and high school, how it was affecting our federal agencies. And since he's gone to the Senate, I've taken on the mantle of the anti-woke caucus. And what I'm, again, trying to do is expose what this woke ideology does, what this social justice ideology does. I don't know if you saw my CPAC speech on Saturday, but what I talked about is how this woke ideology is largely to blame for the disaster that we saw out in California. And what it has to do with is a misdirection of assets. So you have California that has focused on climate change and global warming and DEI and all of this nonsense for all of these years. And then what happened? When there's an emergency, they've got air, their fire hydrants are sucking air and they don't have water in the reservoirs. This is what happens when a government focuses on doing things that it shouldn't be doing. It becomes incapable of doing the things that it should. And I think that California is just an incredible example of that. We know because they did videos of it. They showed videos of these women talking about how, having more women and more gay people in the fire department was so incredibly important, because when you arrive at an emergency, the people that you're trying to help, they want you to look like them. And I'm thinking, that's just the dumbest thing I've ever heard of in my life. Who would say such a thing? I don't care if you have 14 heads when you arrive at my house if I'm having a heart attack. Just save my life. And so what they were doing is they really misdirected assets, and it's happened at every single level of the government. But in California, it's caused hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars in damages and absolutely destroyed lives. Again, focusing on global warming rather than hardening their infrastructure. Did you know that Gavin Newsom vetoed a bill that would have provided funding for hardening the infrastructure, providing for escape routes, would have done more in terms of vegetation management? That bill passed both houses of the Democrat-controlled legislature, and he vetoed it. You know why he vetoed it? Because he said, yes, we need to do more in terms of fire mitigation and protection, but we cannot do that in a way that will undermine my vision for housing. And his vision for housing is multifamily homes and shoving people into 15-minute cities. So he vetoed a bill that could have helped with that catastrophe from last fall, because he wants to shove people into multi-unit housing and get rid of single-family homes. Now, who would do anything that's that dumb?
Oh, communists. It's like the sunny version of North Korea. It's so sad what happened in California. Congresswoman, come back and join me anytime. Appreciate it.